Hello, today we're going to talk about how to solve addition and subtraction equations. To begin with, just a little bit of a review. These two boxes are both boxes of stuff you know. Number one is how to isolate a variable. We've talked about that over and over and over this year. To isolate a variable, you have to ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, what is the variable? Number 2, what are they doing to the variable? And number 3, how do I do the opposite? And always, 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 always remember to do the opposite to both sides. The next thing I want you to notice is how to, just a minute. Right here. How to add and subtract decimals. And when you're adding and subtracting decimals, make sure that you always line up the decimals, fill in any empty places with zeros, and then you add or subtract like normal, and finally you bring down the decimal at the end. So let's do some examples. First, this one right here says explain how to get the variable along. This one we don't have to solve, just how to get the variable along. With this one right here, we ask our 3 questions. Number 1, what's my variable? My variable is x. Number 2, what are they doing to the variable? They are adding 11.4 to x. Number 3, how do I do the opposite? Well, if they're adding 11.4, I need to subtract 11.4, but I have to do it to both sides. So right here, you can see they're subtracting 11.4 here, and they're subtracting 11.4 here. So what do you have to do? You subtract 11.4 from both sides. That was easy, right? The next one right here, I have n minus 19.1 equals 12.4. What is my variable? My variable is n. What are they doing to the variable? They're subtracting 19.1. How do I do the opposite? I add 19.1 to both sides. And you can see that right here. They added 19.1 here, and they added it here. So that's what I write. Add 19.1 to both sides. There we go with that one. Let's go to our next page. Right here, this is also pretty easy. Excuse my dog in the background. So if I have g minus 21.3 equals 48.4, these 2 lines right here are here because they want to see if you know what you're supposed to be doing. So when I have g minus 21.3 equals 48.4, my question is number 1, what's my variable? My variable is g. What are they doing to the variable? They're subtracting 21.3. How do I do the opposite? I add 21.3 to both sides. They even put the addition sign right here, so I'm going to put plus 21.3 and 21.3. Next, I have to solve this, and so I'm going to do 48.4 plus 21.3. So I've lined up my decimals. There's no empty zeros, so I don't need to fill in any hidden zeros. So 4 plus 3 is 7, 8 plus 1 is 9, and 4 plus 2 is 6. My last step is I need to bring my decimal down into my answer. So g equals 69.7. Now let's look at number 4. Number 4, they don't do all the work for you, but we're going to go through it. What is my variable? My variable is y. What are they doing to y? They're adding 7.7. So how do I do the opposite? Well, I've got to subtract 7.7, but I have to subtract it from both sides. So in order to solve this, the 7.7 cancels itself out, and so I have y. So I'm going to do 21. That's bad writing. Just a minute. Okay, so I have 21 minus 7.7. Notice I put my decimal right here. I'm lining it up, and I have to put a hidden 0. If I have a whole number is turned into a decimal by adding a decimal point and by adding a 0. That's all I need to do. So now I have to subtract it like normal. So 0 minus 7, I cannot do it, so I have to borrow. My 0 becomes a 10, and my 1 becomes a 0. 10 minus 7 is 3. 0 minus 7, I can't do that, so I have to borrow. My 2 becomes a 1, and my 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 7 would give me 3. 1 minus nothing would give me 1. My last step is I move my decimal into my answer, so y equals 13.3. And my dog is trying to bark at the neighbors, so I'm holding his head right now. My neighbor's dogs are loud, and so here's Vox. Say hi, Vox. You're a star now. Okay, you're on YouTube. So let's get back to our last problem in our lesson. And this is a word problem. So it says the Olympic triathlon is 51.5 kilometers. A contestant has completed 2 of the 3 legs of the race and has traveled 41.5 kilometers. So 41.5 plus D equals 51.5. So while I am writing this down, let me explain what an Olympic triathlon is. An Olympic triathlon is actually an event in the Olympics. In an Olympic triathlon, the person swims for 1.5 miles, they bike for 24 miles, and they run for 6.2 miles. And so it's a race that they actually spend, like, they do 1 day running, 1 day biking, and 1 day swimming. In a small town, like small scale triathlon, they do it all at once. Like, they start at the starting line, and then if you finish running before other people, you start your biking or you start your swimming or whatever else. And so, but a triathlon has those 3 events: running, biking, and swimming. So I'm going to solve this equation right here. So I'm going to ask my questions. What's my variable? My variable is D. What are they doing to the D? They're adding 41.5. So in order to do the opposite, I have to subtract 41.5. And I'm going to subtract it from both sides because that's what I have to do. This cancels itself out, and I get D on this side. 5 minus 5 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. 5 minus 4 is 1. My last step is bring my decimal point down. However, this is a whole number, and if I'm dealing with a whole number, I do not always need to put the decimal. In fact, if you put the decimal in your homework, it will be wrong. So on your homework, if this were a homework problem, you would just put 10 and you would be done. Have a good night. Good luck on your homework, and I'll see you in class. Goodbye.